by or replaced by many other things. One of the things that Panasonic is doing is we're connecting these screens. We make huge screens that are the outdoor LED screens you see in football stadiums, and I believe the largest one we did was like 25,000 square feet for the Texas Motor Speedway. And that's a device. It's a connected screen where people watch content. But we rely on the communications infrastructures to get the content to it. And we can connect that with the screen you have in your home, be it attached to a wall or sitting in your hand. And we also are one of the major suppliers of the multimedia systems in cars. And so the screens in our vehicles that we drive in are also of key importance to us. And so I just like to thank the technology suppliers that allow that kind of end-to-end solution to happen.
Thanks, Don. So before I comment on connectivity, I'd just like to say I've been getting harassed about that picture for about a month and a half. I was 27 when that picture was taken, which was only about 6 months ago. So bear with me, we'll update it next year. You know, we talk about connectivity and what LTE enables. I was just recently visiting with Ohio State Police, and they showed me a video, and I encourage everybody in the audience to go onto YouTube and check it out. Just type Ohio State Trooper and Greyhound. The bus operator pulled over and called 911 on an interstate in Ohio. They had an unruly passenger on the bus, and a female trooper responded, and she was on her own. She entered the bus, and via cell phone video from several passengers, what was captured was pretty disturbing. This irate passenger was probably twice the size of the trooper, basically tackled her on the steps of the bus. They fell out of the bus, pinned her under the guardrail, and was really going to town on her. Fortunately, some of the passengers, although I think they took a little too long, helped subdue this irate person while the officer could get out from under the guardrail, find her handcuffs, and cuff this individual. But you know, when you watch a video like that, it gets you thinking about what can we do to help that situation and help that trooper and make sure that type of event doesn't take place, or at least it can be shortened in the amount of time that can cause harm to our public safety officers. So Motorola is investing in solutions that leverage connectivity that allow for biometric sensors. In addition to biometric sensors, we'll know that an officer or a firefighter's heart rate is accelerated. We're also looking into technologies like smart belts. So when a weapon is drawn, that can trigger an event in a network. So all of these features come together from a connectivity perspective. An event that happens in the field, whether it's an accelerated heart rate plus the combination of a drawn weapon, that can trigger events within the network and allow surrounding officers to have some context and some situational awareness where they know as they're responding rapidly to this officer that's in distress that the heart rate is up and the weapon's been drawn to potentially entering a hostile environment. So those are the types of things that we think are important that connectivity really enables, and what FirstNet, public safety broadband, will ultimately deliver to our first responders.
Okay, thank you, Rishi. All right, so you guys have all described a world where you have lots of data, broadband connectivity, it's all great. Where do you put it? How do you manage it? And frankly, how do you manage the networks that suddenly just got a whole lot busier? Let Scott take the rest for a little while. I'm going to start with Patrick this time. Patrick, what are your thoughts?
Thank you. That's really an interesting question, because at the end of the day, connectivity doesn't do anything unless you do something with it. So really what you need to think about is how you're actually going to use the data, what it is that drives this. And so the use cases are the important part, and connectivity is just a means to an end. So really the use cases is, that's where the cloud comes in, and software from a technology point of view, where cloud, software, and all those things comes into play. And so we are a firm believer in that you need software in the cloud, service delivery platforms that can enable you to manage the data that is on the network, manage the network itself, but also, most importantly, drive the use cases. So this type of platform in the cloud will drive application innovation, it will drive control, self-care and local control of your networks. So I just wanted to talk a few things, give some examples on innovation. So we have been working with the automotive industry for a number of years, connecting cars. So what Todd has been doing, and we have been doing it from a software and cloud perspective. So one of the companies we've been working with is Volvo, in their newest car, the Volvo XC90, which will be launched, if it hasn't been launched, it will be launched here in the US very soon. We are providing software application platform, a service delivery platform for that car that enables innovation. And just here a couple of months ago, in Las Vegas at Consumer Electronics Show, we showed some of those innovations. We showed, for example, how you can have a connected bike helmet. So when connected to information in the car, so when the biker comes around the blind corner, you in the car can see he's coming. So now you get access to data, you manage the data in the cloud, and you present it to the user in an important way so that they can avoid collision. The driver in the car knows there's someone coming, can slow down, the biker can do the same. Another example of what we did was on grocery delivery. So what we see nowadays is through the internet, there's a lot of, you can buy anything on the internet, right? But sometimes when you deliver it, you're not at home. So how do you do that when no one is at home and you want to deliver it there? That's where our solution came in that we worked out with Volvo. So instead of delivering it to home, you deliver it to your car, and the delivery person gets an electronic key to your car that's valid for one-time use, and you through proper authentication, security, and all those things to make sure that you don't have unauthorized access to your car, you can open the trunk, and only the trunk, and then the delivery person can put in the package in the car, and there you go. So those are some examples of innovation and what you can do with software in the cloud. And all this is driven by use cases. So from a public safety point of view, I think imagination is what we need here to understand what are the use cases that we need in the public safety world. And then you can leave it to technologists like Ericsson to figure out how to get it done.
James, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Danny. I'll go back to something I said a little bit earlier in terms of policy and technology. Certainly the cloud is a very good option for state and local first responders or federal law enforcement officers, but the issue will be, what do you want to do with your data? Do you want to keep your data within your locality, within your community, within your city, within your state? And I think some of that still needs to be a decision process pushed down to that level. So that they can then allow us as the vendors to then figure out what's the best solution for them to keep that data. Now, as we said earlier, there's all sorts of data floating around there right now. Officers are using their own personal devices. They're using Gmail, they're using anything that's available. There's all sorts of implications for that type of information crossing all these different networks. So, as we think about how do you store this information, how long do you want it stored for, what's a good amount of time? Do you need it for 30 years? Do you need it for 10 years? Do you just need it for a year? Certainly big data is a discussion that's being discussed all over the place. And we've now produced more information in the last 24 months than we have in the history of the world. And so, understanding some of those requirements from the state and locals, I think, will drive how we decide to store some of that information or keep it, or understand how it's available. Certainly, the federal law enforcement might have a different requirement than local departments in Adams County, Colorado. So there's a lot of further discussion to be had and to understand how to store some of that stuff, especially in a 4G LTE.
Okay, Todd?
One of the things we really care about is, I wrote down your quote, James, is what do you want to do with your data? Because I agree that that's probably one of the key questions that needs to be asked. If you think about what James said, as far as how much data is produced, we'll probably also all agree that a lot of that information is not really worth preserving. I don't know how many kitty videos you can have, or things on Facebook, and face it, that's where a lot of the information explosion has come from. So in an intelligent, I'm not trying to blast the social networking stuff. I think that's really important to some people. I'm in trouble now, I can tell. So I'll try to extract my foot out of my mouth. At Panasonic, we care about using appropriate information, and we internally have had struggles where as soon as one of our divisions starts to understand that they can connect something, they want to collect everything, and we're talking about terabytes of data a week from a collection of static batteries, and most of the information is the same. And so implementing common sense as far as encryption, not encryption, but compression algorithms, that's something that Panasonic knows a thing or two about, because we were one of the founders of some of the codecs that we used for compressing video for the DVD players and also Blu-ray. We'd like to apply some of that technology to some of the challenges we have today, and that we see everything moving from pieces of data to audio to video, and of course that increases the bandwidth requirements quite a bit, and also is the source of a lot of the mushrooming of the data that we're having to deal with. But deciding what's important on the device end, managing it in the cloud is certainly important. And as far as the complexity of managing the actual channels and traffic and the congestion that happens in the air, we'll leave that to the experts who provide that sort of service to us. But intelligently managing the data is something that we really should be incorporating not only into this industry, but in every industry that's leveraging these communication channels. Because without it, there's just a lot of clutter and things that really don't need to be here.
Thanks, Tom. A lot of my colleagues up here talked about the managing the data and storing the data and the length of time and storing data, all extremely important aspects of data collection and public safety for evidentiary purposes and securing the data as well. But I want to bring out another example that we recently looked at around cross-referencing and being able to search data rapidly. A couple years ago in New York City, an officer responded to a domestic disturbance. And typically, as most folks in this audience know, officers don't enter a home by themselves because domestic disturbance calls are fairly sensitive and stressful. However, this officer arrived on scene and something compelled him to go in because they thought something was happening in the home. So that officer was stabbed in the neck and actually passed away several years ago. And it turns out that the home that this officer was responding to was the home of a well-known mentally disturbed individual. And the officer, unfortunately, didn't have that data by the time he arrived on the scene. So not only storing the data, but being able to get access to the data and the multitude of data repositories that we need access to, be it DMV, be it IGES, be it CGES. We have to have rapid access to that data to equip our first responders appropriately. So that's really where I would focus in on, not just the storage and the access, the security of the data, but really being able to get at the data real time, I think is unbelievably important and an integral part of enabling FirstNet.
So I knew I would use the information in the very beginning, the primary information about the investment really to answer this question. Because when you talk about managing tremendous amounts of data or solutions, it becomes very difficult because you see LTE is growing at a breakneck speed. We've just really started deploying the LTE network. We're already talking carrier aggregation. You already see 5G going on. It's going fast. We're talking about data speeds, terabytes, petabytes of data that needs to be analyzed. And the bottom line, when you're talking public safety and other organizations, that's not your specialty, running networks. So looking to manage services, looking to the experts like the major carriers who actually our business, we run the biggest networks, but we also, that is our business, is we sell. So we are experts in security, experts in management of data, and really the managed service aspect of it should be considered. And when we're talking a little bit about FirstNet, that could be a tremendous key in the financial viability and sustainability to leverage mobile network operators and others that do this on a daily basis that can leverage scale to deliver a solution that's sustainable.
Thank you, Scott. So we've got all this data in the cloud. There have been numerous reports of major hacks of corporations, of governments, and things like that. So I wanted to talk to you guys. How do we secure this stuff? How do we both secure the data and also how do we secure the path, the connectivity? Because if it's in the cloud and I don't have, if I lose it, it's not much use to me. James, what are your thoughts?
Thanks, Tony. You know, I'll stay on message in terms of policy. You know, there isn't currently a federal policy for cybersecurity. It doesn't exist. There's never been legislation passed to provide a national oversight of cyber. There has been attempts, there's been thoughts about it, but you know, typically we don't come up with our rules of the road until there's a crisis. Right? We pass something after something happens. We're very good at reacting to things that occur. Currently, right now, the discussion is how does the private sector share information with the government? How do we do that? What are the protections in place that could be there for, you know, for example, Sony in advance of their hack, sharing their information with the Department of Homeland Security and discussing connectivity you might see on the network and sharing that information with them. That doesn't occur today. So that's at the broader, higher level. And then at the local level, you know, how do you know that your information isn't compromised? You know, what kind of investment have you made? You know, at the local police department level, is there somebody responsible for home cybersecurity within your department or within your larger locality? These are all things that are at the very early stages of awareness. You know, there was just a news story a few days ago about Blue Cross Blue Shield being hacked. You know, and that was followed on by Home Depot or another healthcare provider